What's up, guys? Welcome to the Back on Track podcast with me, Sam West. In every episode, I interview someone who's changed, recovered, or become successful after having faced real adversity in their life. On today's episode is rap artist Elro. His career blew up after going viral with an SBTV Freestyle back in 2011. It wasn't long after that he was signed to a label, and it seemed like all of his dreams were coming true. However, at that time, Elro began suffering with depersonalisation, a mental condition that can cause you to lose the human connection with everything around you and make everything seem foreign or strange. The record label he was signed to also folded, and Elro found himself at rock bottom and drinking to numb the pain of the mental illness. After years of suffering, Elro managed to get himself out of that hole he was in by going sober and is now living a much happier life, which isn't dictated by the condition. I'm also personally pleased to say that he's making music again, and we can expect to hear some of that really soon. So, without further ado, let's find out what happened by listening to his story from start to finish. Elro, first of all, man, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you giving some of your time. How you doing? How's everything going?
I'm good, man. I'm currently sipping a chamomile tea and enjoying the quiet life at the minute. Yeah, but all good.
Very wholesome, mate. Very wholesome. Chilled. Nice one. Elro, first of all, actually, before I get into kind of your story, where does the name Elro come from?
So my surname is Llewellyn-Rowe. My full name is Ian Llewellyn-Rowe. So I took the L and the Rowe and then just respelled it a bit.
Nice.
So it's actually, because I got a double-barreled surname, it's just the last two. It's fairly boring, to be honest. But
well, it sounds fairly boring, but convenient. You had a name that was easily transferable into a rap name.
Well, that's what I wanted to find, a name that, well, at the time. Since then, Elro with a W has come out and does all the dance stuff in Ibiza, but that wasn't around at the time. So when I came out with it, I wanted it to be a unique name. So if people searched it on YouTube, I'd be the only thing that came out.
Exactly.
That's since gone tits up, but there we are.
Well, mate.
What's the deal with swearing?
What's the deal with swearing? You can swear as much as you like. It's it's marked as explicit on Apple and Google podcasts and all the rest of it. So swear away. Sometimes it's needed for effect, isn't it? So yeah, no worries, man. I guess the best place to start, Elro, is at what age did you start rapping, and was that always a dream of yours to become an artist?
Well, I mean, I think when Eminem's first album came out, I started rapping along to his stuff, and that was probably when I learned how to flow a bit just by copying his stuff. But my cousin gave me a hip hop album, I think when I was about 10, and it was just like 10 songs on it. I would listen to that over and over again in my little Sony Walkman or whatever. But then actually writing my own stuff, I think when I was in sixth form, so like 16, 17, I started writing like spoof raps.
Right.
Because it's kind of like, like a middle classy type, looks and everyone sounds, white guy who wants to try rapping. If you do spoofing, you don't have the pressure on to be a sick rapper, do you?
Absolutely.
So I took the edge off by making like spoof stuff to begin with, because I just found it was easy to make people laugh doing it. So yeah, sixth form, I started making joke raps, and then when I went to uni, I sort of decided that I wanted to do something with it, really. So I think I was about 19, something like that.
Nice. And I heard as well in another interview that you did some stand-up comedy. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I was doing stand-up. I started stand-up when I was 18. But then it's a long ladder to climb. I'm inherently lazy, and the music kicked off far quicker than the stand-up. Like stand-up, you've got to tour for ages for no money before anyone will take you seriously.
Yeah.
Whereas in music, you can make one thing, and if it does all right, you basically queue jump everyone else. So me being lazy picked music. But I do like stand-up, but it's not good for people who have anxiety, really, because you constantly, it's I don't know why I did it. I would never do it now. I would maybe if I was on Valium or something.
Yeah, just to take the edge off of it. It's funny. You said so you were doing you did some stand-up comedy, and you started releasing some of those jokey raps on YouTube. Both of those things in their own way could be nerve-wracking things. Would you say you were quite a confident person back in those days? Like what was your headspace like?
I think I thought I was, but I don't think I actually was. I think I knew how to act like a confident person, but deep down, I was kind of shitting myself. But I suppose everyone does that to an extent, though, don't they? But I think I've always been a bit of a jittery person, but at the same time, I am an attention seeker. So I learned how to mask it, and if you can make people laugh, it takes the pressure off stuff, doesn't it? So I think I probably started with that style because I feels like there's less pressure for some reason. Because if you can go, well, it's a joke, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, it was basically like a little safety net, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can understand that. And so you released stuff on YouTube like Builders, which was, one of these sort of spoof raps. I remember that from back in the day. I remember watching it, found it funny. Like, what was the sort of how well was it received, these kind of spoof raps that you were doing and putting on YouTube? Was it all positive? Was there some negative stuff? How did you feel about it back then?
It was so like pre-SBTV, when I was just doing it on my own, it was received pretty well. It wasn't like massive, but I had a couple of songs or freestyles I did on YouTube that were doing all right. But I used to promo the hell out of mine. I used to go on forum, post a link everywhere, and like force people to watch it, essentially.
Yeah.
But the response was all right. But I knew deep down if I could get onto one of the big channels, that chances are it would go a lot bigger, because there wasn't really anyone doing anything like it at the time. Like, there was some awkward looking lesbian guy rapping about his own life.
Yeah, you had a niche in the market.
I knew if I put my best stuff together, I just thought, I don't really understand how this could go out and people not share it, even if they don't like it.
Yeah.
It's something that they wouldn't have seen before. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah, because they're used to serious rappers. So here comes this guy who's, spitting some really quite funny bars. It's different and it is shareable content.
Yeah.
So how long was it after you started putting your own videos on YouTube that you were contacted by SBTV to do the freestyle that everyone knows you for?
Well, I contacted them. You
Right.
have to, like, back in the day at least, you have to keep, you have to keep submitting stuff. And there's some bars I've got in that about a letter to Boris Johnson, like, and I sent them my bars.
Yeah.
And that's a bit where I'm like, as a gangster, I'm hyping about $6.99 for a lap in the drive-by. I had a whole bit on that.
I remember it. Girls go for the gangsters, right? Like, drive bars in the middle of the night. So I tried one, and then I got hit by fright. Boris Johnson. It cost me $6.99. There we go.
Well, come on.
That's the way. Come on, that's the one.
Yeah. So I had a whole version of that, and I sent that to SBTV. And I remember waking up one day and it had like 10, 12,000 more views on my own YouTube. And I was like, what's happened here?
Yeah.
It turns out they'd shared it on their Facebook. And then I checked my email and they'd emailed me saying that they wanted to do a warm-up session. So yeah, I just sent them that. I think I'd probably sent them a few things. I don't think that was the first time I'd emailed them though. I think with these sort of things, like
spamming them.
Yeah, you've got to find that way of spamming without being a repulsive twat.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a fine margin, but yeah, basically spamming them politely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Eventually, they listened, and it all sort of went from there, really.
How long did it take you to write those bars for that SBTV freestyle?
You know what? People ask me that a lot. I don't know how to answer that, because if you notice it, it's just a stream of consciousness, really.
Yeah.
Like, that's just cobbled together bars that I'd probably written over a year.
Right.
Because I don't write, I'm the sort of guy, I lose interest after an hour or two maximum. So I just write in patches and then cobble it together. And so when they said to me, you've got an SBTV, I basically did a greatest hits of all the bars that I'd written to that point and put it. So that was loads of shit cobbled together that I thought would grab people's attention. And I guess it did. So yeah.
It did massively. I mean, it blew up. It got, it's on like 3 million views at the moment, nearly 4 million views, something like that. So it blew up massively. Two things, I guess, here. Number one, did you expect it to? And also, what was the feeling like when it started really popping off and getting shared by everyone? How did you feel about it?
It sounds cocky, but I kind of did expect it to. Maybe not as much, but I expected it to do something because, like I said, there's no one else doing it. So I expected it to do something, maybe not to the extent, but I just remember like Jamal who owns SB, he like texted me the night it went out. He's like, bro, you're famous. And I was like, what? He's like, everyone in London has seen your video. And I was like, what? And then, because it actually made number one trending on YouTube. So it was right on the front page of YouTube. So that once it blew, then it kind of blew. These were back in the days when like 100K views in a week was massive. People back nowadays you get that overnight easy, but it was a different era. I sound like an old man, don't I?
It was a different era back then. Yeah.
It was a different era, and there wasn't Instagram wasn't a thing, and it was I remember getting really. It was like too much at one point. I think after a day, and it was going so big, I had so many messages and like so much happened at once. I had to like step back from it and just be like, what the fuck is. I kind of expected it, but then when it actually happens, it is a different ball game. And it was not even so much the views that threw me a bit. It was like who was getting in contact, because it was like Mike Skinner got in contact pretty quickly. Getz, me saying he loved it, and so all like my favorite artists were tweeting about it, and I was just like, I wasn't really ready for that. You know what I mean? It was a great feeling, but quite a lot. Like coming up on Mandy, and you feel like you need to be sick.
Yeah, you're buzzing, but also quite anxiety-inducing as well.
Good, but I don't know how to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, this is good. Everything's fine. It was like that.
Yeah, I can imagine a mix of stuff. But it was a really, really, really sick freestyle. I mean, it did the rounds with me and my mates for sure. I reckon of those 3 or 4 million views, we've probably got 1 million of them. I reckon. So yeah, after that, you said Mike Skinner approached you. And you got signed to a record label, right? Like how did that play out? And also, how were you feeling at that point? Because I guess it was probably sort of a dream realized.
It was, and it wasn't, sort of. I signed to 679, which is a sub-label of, usually when you sign to for the first time, you're signed to if you sign to a major, you sign to a sub-label. Usually.
Right, yeah.
So I signed to Warner Brothers, but the sub-label was called 679. So that's the people who put out like Plan B's albums, the Streets albums, loads of people. So I signed to them first, but only for single deals. But I also signed briefly to Mike Skinner's label, The Beats. So that was a Streets label. But that was more of a promo thing, really, just to kind of get out there in the press that Mike Skinner signed this. It wasn't really a big money thing. It was more of it's a good look, do you know what I mean? And he wanted to relaunch the label, so it worked for both of us that I'd be the first person that he would sign. So it was great, but the problem with 679 when I was with them was that I didn't really know what sort of music I wanted to make, really. I'd written these bars that, I can write funny freestyles, but I didn't really have a clue what sort of music, where I wanted to go with it. And not long after I'd signed to them, I took too many drugs one night, and I took a load of pills on this night out. I remember it perfectly. I was in Motion, Bristol. I took these pills. I didn't even know what they were, like an idiot. Smoked a load of weed, and basically ended up causing myself depersonalisation.
Wow, from that one incident.
Literally from a moment, I can remember the exact moment it happened. And I've never felt the same since. And so all that started in one night, not long after I'd been signed. So it was weird because I'd just been signed, and yet I felt like my whole life had been ripped away from me, and I wasn't even human anymore.
For someone that doesn't know what depersonalization is, and I've got to be honest, before seeing your story, I didn't know what it is either. So if you could try and explain what effect it had on you.
Right. This is you'll need a 2-day video for this, but I'll try and sum it up briefly. Basically, it strips any attachment that you've had from anything. So I was looking at everything as if I was seeing it for the first time, and it happened in an instant. Like my whole mindset changed. So I'd be looking at my hand, doesn't look like my hand anymore. It just looks like a load of matter on the end of this thing, whatever I am. And then I'm looking at a cigarette, thinking about stuff. If anyone's ever taken magic mushrooms, it's kind of like that on roids. It makes you look at things in a way that you've never ever looked at them before, but like times 50, with a stomach dropping anxiety the whole time. Everything freaks you out. Like human beings don't look like humans anymore. Like you look at a human being and you don't see a human's face. You see this weird creature. The way I describe it, it's almost as if you would drop down on an alien planet for the first time, and you were witnessing absolutely everything was brand new to you, like completely new plants, new species of stuff, like that all day, every day. And so when people are talking to you, you can act like you're normal because you've spent your whole life being normal. So you know the patterns of how to react socially to appear normal.
But you're almost acting at that stage.
Yeah, you are literally acting it, going through the motions. When in your brain, You are absolutely terrified and have no idea what they're going on about, what they are, what anything is. Everything freaks you out, every movement of anything. So I had that chronically for years, and it started during the time I got signed.
That sounds absolutely terrifying, really, that you lose a human connection with everything.
Like family don't look like family anymore. No, anyone touching you, like you'd think, oh, someone give you a hug, that's soothing. Opposite, someone hugs, you, freak out. So it was horrible, and
How did you deal with, so you started feeling like that whilst you're signed to a label, so I reckon you must have been around a lot of people, cameras on you, stuff like this. Did that make it worse, and what was that like?
the weird thing was, obviously, like technically, it was the best time of my life. Like everything I've been working towards was happening, but I wasn't there. My brain was not part of it. It's happening to me, but my brain isn't a part of this process. My brain is focused on the atomic structure of X, Y, Z everywhere. And I'm looking at stuff in a way, everything seems brand new to me. So I don't even feel like a human. I can't talk, and like, so it made the writing process very difficult because I didn't really have anything to go by.
Couldn't relate to anything.
Yeah. So all I was thinking of is stuff that was super relatable to the 1% of people who have depersonalisation, but pretty much not relatable to anyone else. And weirdly, when I was on 679, the label folded anyway. So before I was going to release my second single, which would have been the main one, the label folded. So I never even got to release my second single anyway. But we hadn't even decided what it was. But that was just how it panned out in the end. But it made absolutely every process of life unbearable. Like I had to, because when I got signed, I had to go back, and I live in South Wales. I had to go back and forth to London every week. I was living in hotels for like 3-4 days a week, back and forth, and having to do press days and all this and that, and all while I'm having a continuous panic attack the entire time and trying to appear normal. So it basically just completely ruined my life. And I've eventually found that drinking a bit masked it for not nowhere near got rid of it, but let's say if it's a scale of 1 to 100, and 100 was normal in the day, if I drank, it would be down to a 70, which when something is that bad is quite a significant drop. And so I think back then I developed some bad drinking habits, not knowing that that was actually spiraling. Because if I drink these days, I get anxiety for days after it, and it hangs over me. So I was doing this thing which was causing me more anxiety. And this whole condition is caused by anxiety. If you don't have anxiety, you still have these profound thoughts, but they're not a problem. The only problem is when you get that stomach dropping anxiety with the thoughts that it's an issue. Otherwise, they're just really profound thoughts. You're thinking about stuff in a way that no one else is thinking about it. No, that's the weird thing. It's nothing like you don't hallucinate. You don't see things differently, other than you have a different focus point and a different reference point. You're not seeing anything that isn't there. You're not imagining seeing things that's irrational. Everything is rational, but it's also terrifying. And it's actually surprisingly common, this. I'm speaking to a guy at the moment who's going through it, actually. I try and reach out to people. A lot of people message me who've had it, so I try and...
It's amazing that you do that, yeah.
Yeah, well, once you've experienced how bad it is, you honestly don't want anyone else on the planet to go through it. And the weird thing is, if I don't have it right at this moment, well, I have maybe 2% of it, which can, nothing. You actually can't even imagine what it's like. I can't imagine what it's like again.
Even though you've been through it, yeah.
Even though I've been through it, it's that far removed from a normal human state that you can't, it's not a memory. It's like if you've taken some drug, if you don't have that drug again, you can kind of sort of roughly describe what it's like, but you can't actually pinpoint that feeling. It's like that, man, because it's an alien feeling.
Yeah, it sounds like a really, really tough period, because you must have had the absolute high of SB, getting signed by a label, sort of dreams coming true, if you like. And then as soon as that happens, you experience this sort of really, really, really difficult mental condition. The label goes to pot, and then, as you say, you start drinking and stuff like that. It sounds like a really, really tough period. Did you go to the doctors or anything about the depersonalisation, and did they give you anything that helped, or did you have a way of tackling it? Or
you don't want to do what I did at the time, I'll tell you that. Well, I did go to doctors, but I went to the doctors after I didn't Google anything for ages, because I didn't want to find out that I had something that was incurable. Because another thing about this is that when it happens to you, you feel so different. You instantly know you will never be the same again. You know, it's that you know you can't unthink what you've just thought. This complete change from here on in, and it really is. It is. It has been. But it doesn't feel like anything that will ever get better. It feels 1,000,000% like you will feel like this for the rest of your life. And so I didn't want to Google something, find out that that was right. But eventually I had to. And I Googled something along the lines of not relating to humans anymore and all sorts of other things. And it came out depersonalisation. I read it. And like, I'm a skeptic of everything. So I don't like horoscopes or read something and I'll be like, oh, that applies to me. It literally described exactly what I was describing in my head. And so I kind of knew what it was. And it said it often comes, after a trauma or drug related, whatever. So when I went to the doctors, I kind of knew what I had and I explained it to them. And the doctor didn't know what it was, weirdly. Yeah, the doctor hadn't heard of it. And like now, the last few years, it's become way more well known. But at the time, because this was like, it's been like 8 years ago, I think. But like, yeah, no, they didn't even know what it was, but they sort of did, and they did some reading on it, and they gave me some diazepam for when it was bad, but that's not a permanent fix.
It's not a cure, is it? Yeah.
Nothing. So I basically just spiraled into shit habits of just drinking all the time, really.
Right.
For ages and ages, and it's the worst thing you can do. Like the guy I'm speaking to at the moment, I'm telling him like he's actually just gone to uni. I'm like, you got a choice. You can either drink and you will feel like crap for days and days after, or you can be really strict and eventually you'll come back to normal. Because I delayed my whole recovery period by drinking solidly for years and constantly having inherent anxiety from the fact I was hungover or coming off alcohol.
So it was like putting two conditions then into one because of the coping mechanism that you developed.
Yeah, so it just spiraled, and I never, because I never really quit. I would only ever quit for 4 days or so at a time. It was not even long enough for it to fully get out of my system. So I constantly would commit to myself, no, I've tried not drinking for days, and it doesn't do anything. It was only when I quit for like 2 weeks, I realized that, everything lifted significantly. And it's been, like these days, it's not even a thing to me really. Like I have those sort of thoughts sometimes, but they don't freak me out, and therefore it's not really an issue. It's, if anything, it's a superpower because you're just thinking in abstract ways, that a lot of people are thinking. And if that doesn't scare the shit out of you, it isn't an issue. It's only an issue when it stops you being able to focus in day-to-day life. And it only comes on now when I'm really nervous, or let's say if I have been out drinking, then the day after, if I haven't slept well. Annoyingly, when I've got stuff to do with music, I get it as well, but it is what it is. But in general, day-to-day life, it's not really an issue for me anymore, which if you told me that when it happened, I would think that's not possible.
So it was giving up alcohol and doing that 2-week period without drinking that really started to make it better. And is that still true now in the present, that not drinking sort of keeps it at bay? Or?
Yeah, and but to people who might just have had it, it won't instantly cure it. It will. Try doing 2 months, and I can almost guarantee you it will take away the harshness of it at least. And then if you do longer than that, you start getting used to it. And once you know that it is, the alcohol and stuff is a trigger, you've got more inkling to not abuse it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So had you stopped making music after the label, going down the drain, as it were? Did you stop making music, or?
I did dribs and drabs for years, but like my head was all over the place, completely all over. I spent years and years and years fully convinced that I had to die. I was going to die, or I had to kill myself. Like I spent years and years like that.
Right. That's so sad when a mental condition takes hold that strongly that you do think about things like suicide just as a way of stopping it.
Yeah, I just didn't care about anything because I just was. I knew, even, well, I say knew. Obviously, I was wrong, but at the time knew that I had to die, and it was, I had so much going on with my physical health as well. I just didn't give a crap about anything. So I had no reason to make good decisions or try hard. I've had a few periods where I've thought I was getting better and then slipped back, and thought I was getting better and slipped back. But one thing that's a constant is when I'm making music, at least for while I'm writing it and releasing it, it is a definite improvement for me. Well, even if I write a good 8 bar, I'll be buzzing for days. But in a borderline psychotic way, where I'll be like, "This is this is the best thing ever," and I'll be like, "This is the shit that's gonna go." You know what I mean? But I get so happy about it. I think I'm probably bipolar as well, but I've never had it diagnosed. Intentionally, not been to address it. But if you follow my pattern, it's well, it is bipolar. But I've never been to a doctor to have it diagnosed because it's not something personally at the moment I want to medicate. If I don't drink, it's not, the lows aren't bad enough to make me want to medicate it. If it was more extreme, then I probably would. But at the moment, if I don't drink, I'm like this. But if I drink, I'm like that.
Yeah. So where are you at nowadays in terms, like, do you drink weekly out on the weekends or
I'm not drinking at all at the moment. I did, when was it? Lockdown. So right before lockdown, I got hospitalised. I thought something had exploded inside me. I've been drinking years, and I was abusing painkillers as well, like not badly, but enough to. And basically, it turns out since I was like 22, I haven't been able to eat properly at all. Like it's constantly felt like I've had a lump at the top of my stomach, and I can't really describe it to you other than a burning lump at the top of my stomach, and like pressure needs to be relieved. Like an internal rubbing feeling that no matter how you move, couldn't get away from. Anyway, it got to the point where it felt like that, whatever it was, it exploded. I got hospitalised, and turns out I had acute gastritis. So my stomach lining was inflamed and had been for years, but because I was so convinced that I was killing myself and I was going to die, I just lived through agony for years and years because I just had given up. But it took actually getting to that breakdown point again to go and get it diagnosed. And now I'm on these tablets that they haven't solved the issue. I'm due an operation. Well, no, the camera down the throat thing soon.
Yeah.
Probably put back a bit because of Corona, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing next. But these tablets I'm on pretty much stop the pain in my stomach. So I've been able to eat normally for the first time in honestly nearly a decade. So I came to hospital at the start of lockdown, and I thought, fuck this, I'm not drinking for a while now at least, because it's no good for me. If I know my stomach can be helped. I did 16 weeks of no drink after lockdown and tried to reintroduce it slowly, but all I've found is that as much as I would love to be able to drink, because I passionately love socializing when I'm tipsy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It hangs on me for days and it fucks my stomach instantly back to horrible stage 1. So at the moment, I'm not drinking at all because I tried to reintroduce it and it was slipping back to old state. I realized after a few weeks of even just having a few every now and then, I was starting to feel depressed again. I was starting to feel like shit and my stomach was rubbish. So I just thought, for now, until I find out what's wrong with my stomach and until I'm in a really good place mentally, I'm not going near it. Like maybe if it's a wedding or something, and I know I've got nothing to do for a few days after it, I'll deal with it. But in reality, it's just.
It sounds like there's so many things really that you've had to go through on one on top of the other since that record stuff falling apart, from the depersonalisation, anxiety, depression, the physical thing. It just seems never ending, man, to be honest. And it sounds like you've had it pretty hard. Like
It was just so many things, and obviously some of them are self-inflicted and they start because of this, but it gets to a point where you don't feel like you can deal with stuff. And that's why this time, earlier this year, when it got to that point with this, it was like I needed that to happen. What felt like something exploding in me. It was basically my stomach lining rubbing against each other, which is a feeling, unless you've had it before, you can't describe. It's horrible. It's like, it's so bad. Like they liken it apparently to like childbirth.
Really? That bad?
You can't, nothing you do gets rid of it because it's try and move and it's horrible. But it took that to kind of smack me in the face and go, right, let's attempt sorting this out and try these tablets if it does work. Because another problem was, we're going all medical now, but anyway, fuck it.
It's fine, fuck it, we'll go there, yeah.
These tablets that I'm on now, my dad is allergic to. And when I first tried them years ago for the stomach stuff that I tried, I was sick loads of times after. So I'd convinced myself that they didn't work with me either. But it turns out when I went into hospital this time, they injected it into me and it almost instantly really helped with my pain. And so what probably happened the time before is my stomach was in a similar situation like this, where anything I'd have taken would have been set back up. And so I correlated that with, oh, these tablets don't work for me. So I never tried them again. So I've wasted years of my life not taking these tablets because the first time I took them, I was sick. And so I thought they were bad for me. But it turns out if I've had it injected and then to a level, then take them, they actually helped me a lot. So annoyingly, I've actually wasted years of my life where I could have been having these tablets and I didn't. But you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, at least, at the very least, you found something now that helps, and that's.
Mate, I'm eating loads. Honestly, food's one of my favourite things, and I'm eating 4 or 5 times what I could eat a year ago now. It's amazing. I love it.
And you like cooking as well, don't you? Because I follow you on social media, and I see all the time cooking some really nice stuff. By the way, has that become like a bit of a passion since you've been able to eat a lot better and that stomach thing's improved?
Even when I couldn't. I've had a cooking show. Well, we did one episode. We were looking at putting it with Unilad, but ended up going tits up. But I've got on YouTube, if you look at El's Kitchen.
Yeah, I remember seeing it at the time.
I got one episode out, but we're actually starting filming again next month. A few more episodes of that, see if we can get going a bit.
Yeah, nice, man.
But yeah, even when I couldn't eat, that was the worst thing. I'd cook up all this crap, and it was look amazing, but I couldn't even eat it. I cooked roasts every week for my family, and it'd get to eating it, and I honestly would eat one slice of chicken, half a roast potato, and I couldn't eat. And I'd lay on the sofa, probably have to be sick 5 times a day for like 8 years, man. And I just put up with it because I thought that was just how I am.
That on top of mental health stuff just sounds like physically and mentally, your body was just like, I can't do it anymore.
So obviously I had no energy as well because I had no vitamins and nutrients in me. So it was this cycle of absolutely everything that you can make you feel bad in one go. And I just was convinced that I was too far gone now for it to be fixed. So I just dealt with it. And the only time I could do anything was if I'd necked loads of alcohol, managed to keep it down. Because half the time I couldn't even keep alcohol down, but I'd keep drinking and be sick. It's so appalling, really. But it is what happened,
It sounds horrific and so crippling. The combination of the mental and physical things for such an extended period of time, 8 years or whether it was that you mentioned. But thank God that at the moment it's better and things are on the mend. Was your second SBTV? That was back in 2016. Was it 2016?
Yeah.
So you had the SBTV, and also you've had a couple of other freestyles like the JDZ Media.
I've done like 3 or 4 JDZs as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've all done relatively well, right? They've all got quite a few views. Like, what was the feedback, I guess, from them? And have you had any other approaches from records or record labels and stuff like that?
A few small ones, but nothing that took my fancy properly. These days, I don't think I'd sign to a label. If I get it popping enough that a label wants what I'm doing, chances are there's a good reason. It's changed so much with streaming and that, man. You make money quickly, independently yourself these days. It wasn't like that when I signed back in the day. Spotify wasn't even a thing.
Really? Mate, was Spotify not a thing when you...
Well, it might have been a thing, but no one was on it. Like, streaming only became we had to try and actually sell music, But now Spotify pays like $5 per 1,000 views. This is the stupid thing is I've never really monetized any of the stuff I've done since then. Done freestyles for other channels, but my head wasn't really in it. So I just put these channels out and they'd be getting like a few 100,000 views, which would be good money if it was on Spotify to me. It was on someone else's channels. And I was just, like I said, I thought I was going to die. So like...
You didn't care about that. That was the least you worried.
I thought, yeah, I kept trying. I thought I'll pop it again. If it gets proper popping, it will come. And I just thought everything would sort itself. I'm my own worst enemy in a way.
Is that a regret of yours at all? Looking back, not kind of having monetized a lot of the stuff that you've done that's gone viral and that was so well received. Is that a regret?
100%. Yeah. If it happened again now, I'd be straight on to the monetizing it. But it's a different world, I'm not very good at organizing. I'm good at creating weird stuff, but I'm not. The rest of it isn't really my thing. Like it should be, but I can't. I don't know. I never finish anything, man. Even the stuff that's finished, like I've had to have forced myself to finish, or someone else would have forced me to finish it. Like I'm not good at getting end products. I've got lots and lots of, like currently I'm sat on like an album's worth of stuff, but none of it is polished to the point where it's, when I look at it, at least I'm still creating and I'm gathering to a point now where I am going to be ready to do it soon.
So in 2019, I say back in 2019, last year, this year's gone on so long that it feels like an eternity ago. So, but in 2019, was that your first full album that was released?
Well, it was an EP that.
It was an EP, right?
Yeah. That's my first EP. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what was that process like? Putting all those songs together, because I remember actually when you were recording Amsterdam and you were traveling over there to record the music video, and I remember you were going sober in that period before going over there. So what was your headspace like back then? Were things on the way up a bit, or?
Yeah, things were on the way up, and I was convinced everything would be fine from then, because I thought I'd be able to reintroduce alcohol slowly and it'd be fine. If you listen to some of the tracks on there, there's a mixture, because there's some stuff I wrote a while ago, and there's the more uplifting stuff about sort of feeling better. But I was in a good headspace when I wrote the positive tracks on that album, which the other ones were written before. So I recorded them for that EP. I wanted it to be a full spectrum of the emotions, that EP. It kind of covered everything. But like going to Amsterdam, yeah, I was in a good space, because I had all these expectations, and I thought I was good, I was really getting better mentally. But after that, I mean, I reintroduced drinking while I was in Amsterdam.
Right.
Slowly, got battered by the end, and then fucked my stomach again. And yeah, just slowly. It's very hard to reintroduce something, because even it's not like I was reintroducing it and then I'm not like an alcoholic in the sense that I drink all day every day, or did. I mean, that wasn't my thing. It was that I'd go on 4-day binges and have no sleep, and all I could think about is alcohol, because it would go, and then I wouldn't drink for 5 days, and I'd do it again 4 days and 5 days. And that's that was my pattern. Even sometimes it wasn't even that. I would just, even having 4 or 5 for days after that, it sucks the life out of me, man. Like if I had 4 pints tonight, for days I would not feel like I'm capable of doing anything.
Really? Yeah.
Yes, and it's livable. I'm not like that sort of level of alcohol is livable for me, but it's not something I can do long term, because it's not something I want to do long term. Now also, when I drink, I've had so many problems with drink. Even when I drink, I've got inherent anxiety with drinking. So I feel anxious. So if I drink, I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't be doing this. So I've ruined drinking for myself. So in a way, it's a good thing, because because that's a rational anxiety. That's not an irrational. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
I should be afraid of that, because it has fucked me up so many times. So even now, I'll have the first 2 or 3, and I actually feel depersonalized again, because I feel all this anxiety come on. I'm like, if I drink past that, it goes away again a bit. But the amount of fun that I have off it is not worth the recovery time, and that is the honest truth. And I'll probably relapse again at some point. But the good thing is, I've got to a point now where I know I'm only ever about a week and a half away from feeling good again. So even if I do slip into a quick bad habit at some point, which I will, probably, because I'm human, I've got no interest in doing it for a while. But let's say next time I do drink at a wedding, that turns into 4 or 5 days, and I feel like I want to kill myself again. I know now that I'm only a week. If I can ride it out, I'm only a week and a half away. So if it might happen, but it won't happen often. Do you know what I mean? So I've got to a point where I can't deny now that if I don't drink for a few weeks, I do feel better.
How difficult has it been to give up drinking in the stints that you have? Because obviously it is such an accepted thing that everyone does a lot at the weekend and stuff, and you must have developed sort of social habits over the years that revolved around it. So what do you do with your weekends now, and how difficult is it to not go out, or do you go out and not drink? Like how difficult is that?
I'm really lucky with the people I have around me, my family, and the fact that I've got a Mac now, I've got monitors, I can do stuff. I live in an area of the country where I can go. If you watch my stories, you'll probably see I can go out walking in amazing places all the time.
Yeah, the big river and all the rest of it. I see it. Yeah.
I've got so much around me. The social thing is crap. It is crap. I'd be lying if I said to you, I wrote some bars today. I'd be lying if I said that I don't miss what it does to me. The misuse crept up on me. And that is the truth, man. Like, I miss the 3-pint buzz I used to get before the anxiety. 3-pint buzz, you're perfect social. You've got a bit of charm about you. You're not wooden. You don't think about anything. You're just in the moment. I miss that. But now, if I don't drink I get a natural buzz from turning it down. And every time I turn drinks down, I get home and I sit on my sofa and I get a natural, and you're going to be fine tomorrow. And I can sleep. I get up the next day and I feel good. And so, like, it's a drug in itself. It's an actual, I can feel something is being released in my brain when I make good decisions. And so, like, it is shit. And sometimes I still do go out and do stuff with my mates who drink, but also I'm getting older now. And a lot of my mates, some of them drink loads, but some of them aren't that into drinking either. So we're doing other stuff. We're playing golf. I don't know how I'm going to meet a bird. That is a problem now because I go wooden, especially if I like someone. You know, if you like someone, you start fucking overthinking.
Yeah, you get a bit anxious and nervous. Yeah.
And that's why I want the 3 points. So that's why I'm not writing off. Like, say if I go on a date or something, maybe I'll consider having a couple. But I'm going to keep it for stuff like that. But it's not worth it to me other than for that. But if I do that, I know I'll feel like shit for days after. So it is pointless, really.
It is pointless, but it's funny though with booze, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people. No matter how bad the aftermath of it is, and in your case, really bad even in little amounts, there's always that part of you that really misses it, I guess, from what you're saying. So it's a really difficult thing to kick.
But I've now known that from doing all the stints I've done, the natural feeling of having zero anxiety is basically 4 pints. And so if I do that long enough, I actually return, because I used to describe my level of sobriety is here. When I have 4 pints, I feel like everyone else feels before they've had any. But it takes 4 pints to feel like that. But when you don't drink for months, you start to return to that. And so it's like, I find myself getting up in the morning to go and do stuff, and I've got a natural spring in myself. It might be the Monty as well. Probably drinking too much Monty, but
What's Monty?
Monster.
Oh, Monster, right.
If I get a little bit of caffeine, I'm anything. Like I've actually got a natural spring in my step to do stuff. The only stuff that I really miss from drinking is the social lubricant side of it that makes you casual. Because I'm desperate to appear. Let's be honest, looking casual is attractive, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
But if you look like this and you overthink everything, it's not attractive. I'm hyper aware of that now, which makes it worse again. So the only thing I miss from drinking is the casualness of it, making me think less. That's the only thing I miss from it. The rest of it, bullshit.
You talked there about sort of getting a buzz out of some of living the sober life, really getting up early in the morning, going for a walk and stuff like that. Have you got into other wholesome, quote unquote things such as like meditation or exercise? Have you started kind of getting addicted to that kind of side of things, or not really?
Sort of. I've started golf again. I used to be county captain. I have to tell everyone this.
County captain, Elro.
Went county captain. Yeah, junior county captain.
Yeah.
Shout out GPU for life. Come on. But, so I'm playing golf again, which I'm enjoying. Which golf is stressful, but it's nice to come away from golf. The other day I had this. I played golf for about 3 hours. I came back. I thought that was stressful, but wait a minute. I haven't thought about anything else other than golf for 3 hours.
Which is an amazing feeling. Yeah.
Amazing. And I was like, if you'd have told depersonalized me 8 years ago that it was possible to not think about stuff for 3 hours, I would never believe you. So if golf is a good one because golf stresses you in other ways, but it's a less real stress, isn't it? It grinds you up, but it's different to life stress, isn't it?
It's almost a healthy bit of stress, really. I think to some extent.
Yeah, and it's problem solving and it keeps you busy. So I mean, golf, walking. I've been doing cooking the whole time I was messed up. Even cooking never left. I love cooking because it probably all stems down to attention seeking. Like I really love cooking for people, and when people love my food, I get my natural buzz. So cooking has been one that's been there present for even when I can't eat my own food, it's been present. But the new ones, golf, walking, and like I said, I did try meditating last night, but I haven't gone far enough down the rabbit hole yet to work out if it works for me or not.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult when you try it in the beginning because it's almost impossible to try and not think about anything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That's the paradox in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
It takes a bit of practice to even be able to do it. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it definitely is worth doing. Everyone is different, of course. But anyway, so in the here and now, in your day to day life, how are you feeling mentally, and how does that compare, let's say, to 6 years ago or whatever, when things were at their worst?
Yeah, I don't want to be under any illusions to anyone that watches this. Like, I wouldn't say I'm fixed, but I'm infinitely better than I was. Like, sometimes you forget that, because I'd got to a low that is, there's no words I can give to describe to you the pattern I was in. It was appalling. I wouldn't want to put anyone through it. It was horrible, and it makes it spirals. And now I'm relatively normal. I still overthink everything to the nth degree, and I'm annoying and anxious sometimes, but in a way that reflects how I imagine a fairly normalish person does. So I'm at this particular moment, I'm fairly good. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm in a position where I can make decisions that might lead to me eventually getting where I want to be. But I don't even know where I want to be. But I'm happy that I'm able to go out and walk the dog and want to be able to do that. If I drink alcohol, a few years ago, I would have to be dragged out to do anything. I'd have to drink through it to make it bearable. Now, I'm actively, constantly messaging people to do stuff because I actually want to do stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a great sign of feeling mentally well, isn't it? Like wanting to do like social plans and meet up with people. And
I think the diet has made a huge difference to that. Like, the fact I can eat now. I mean, I don't eat perfectly, but I eat all right. So I try and eat enough vitamins and that. I think that's made a massive difference, because it's all linked. All of these little things I've tried to address has added up to a bigger change. And I'm definitely not there yet, but I'm definitely on the slope up towards the right bit, you know?
I mean, mate, yeah, from what you've described, it's like night and day, really, from where you were all those years ago with the physical and mental problems to now. Although not 100% as you describe, it is still a massive change, and that must be a great feeling in itself. Do you have a good like support network of like family and friends and stuff like that help you through the tough times?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes the tough thing is, especially for me, it was like, once I'd been properly suicidal a few times and then you think you've got better, then it becomes embarrassing, because when you've given out the illusion that you are better, well, it wasn't even when you're not faking it at the time, because you genuinely do think you're better, but then you slip back or whatever. That was the only time I've actually felt almost embarrassed for it, because the first time it happens to you, you kind of like, yeah, well, this, I didn't try for this to happen. When you make bad decisions again, it happens, you get kind of embarrassed. But my friends and family seem to be, very supportive. And if I tell them, I'm really, really struggling, which, touch wood, hasn't happened in a while, people will help me. Like, and no one, like, everyone knows I'm a massive open wound with my emotions and stuff, like, most of the time anyway. So if I'm really bad, people will tend to know I'm really bad, and people tend to help me. So yeah, I'm grateful.
Yeah, it helps massively to have a support system around you.
Sometimes you have to tell people. You have to tell people, because you'll feel like you can't. And that was the weird thing. Sometimes I would have to drink to get to a point where I felt I could tell people.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing. And that yeah, sometimes to get to a point I felt I could open up, I would drink. But in a way, I'm glad I did, because otherwise I would have kept it to myself and then spot. So I'm not just saying to drink to people. What I'm saying is, if you are that bad, if you're that bad and you hate your life that much and you don't want to live like this anymore, you will get to a point where you think, I actually can't do this anymore. I have to change. And it takes reaching that horrible low, for me anyway. I would imagine people who are organized, they see the signs earlier on, and then they don't have to go to the crippling lows that I've been to. But for me, it got to a point where I just had to make change. I just thought, I can try. If I try and change and stuff gets better, then it's going to get better. If it doesn't, then nothing's changed. So if I end up having to kill myself, I'll end up having to kill myself. But if I haven't tried, and I did try, and I found that you can feel better. It won't happen instantly, but it comes quicker than you'd think. So you sometimes you'll make a good decision. You won't get rewarded for that good decision for 3 weeks, but it will literally be weeks sometimes, like especially with addiction stuff.
Yeah.
It'll feel like an unclimbable wall, and you'll feel like you're not getting any positives. But if you stick at it, in a few weeks, you really will see positives, and you'll be saying, God, I honestly didn't think that was doable, because I've been proven wrong so many times now. My own brain, I don't believe the thing that comes into it anymore, because it's been thrown out of the water so many times. But like anyone watching, you really can change, but you have to do one thing at a time. Like just pick one thing and just keep ticking them off, because it's hard. But you'll find that the improvements come quicker than you'd think. Anyway, that's what I found.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think it is incredible to come from where you were all those years ago in a really, really bad place, both mentally and physically, to now, you know, enjoying the simple things in life and at least feeling a hell of a lot better. And you've kind of beat me to it, but I normally get guests to give a couple of bits of advice to listeners who.
Oh yeah, I did write some down actually.
Yeah, who might be going through similar situations. You are the first guest, I think, that's written them down. So you might be more organised than you think here. That's a podcast first.
That's only because you told me that you do it, and I thought I don't want to seem like that scatty guy that hasn't
doesn't have anything to say. Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. So actually, the stuff I've written is kind of what I was saying there. You have to realise you've had enough in order to get better. You have to, like, some people aren't actually ready to get better yet. That's the honest truth. It's brutal, but the honest truth is there's some people, they're not far enough down the rabbit hole yet to realise they could, if you can skip the nonsense that I did, wait until breaking point, then great. But it takes realising that you've had enough to get better. And then from there on in, the main thing is you have to be strict, even if not forever, but for the start. Like, let's say you're quitting alcohol, do 6 weeks. Because apparently, I don't know whether there's any truth in this, but my mates told me there's some stuff. Was it 8? No, 9, 8 or not. I don't know. Let's say 8 or 9 weeks. He'd read some study where if you quit something that you were addicted to or whatever for that long, it starts to rewire your neurological pathways.
Right. Okay.
And like I found, as I said, I did 16 weeks, but I found that definitely after doing that long, something's different in my head. I can have a pint or two now and stop. I'm not that sort of. That's not my issue. It's not that I relapse every time and go mental with it. I can have a few pints and stop. My problem is it genuinely messes up my health and my mental health as well. But but the advice is be strict for the start and be aware that although the rewards won't be instant, they will come quicker than you think. And when you start to feel them, you get kind of addicted to those rewards. And when you feel like crap for years, when you actually walk out in nature for the first time and you're just wandering around and you're looking about, at some point you'll be like, wait a minute, I don't feel like complete crap.
Yeah.
And that'll be one thing to grasp on. And then the longer you stick at it, those moments come more and more and more, and you find yourself wanting to do stuff. And so even though like it's going to be tough at the start, and it is going to be tough, and because I can only speak from my alcohol stuff as well, and I don't know what it's like coming off heroin or anything.
Of course, yeah, it's a different thing.
I'm sure that's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
But genuinely with drugs, it's a few week period of complete hell, essentially. After that, the rewards come thick and fast. And that's why a lot of people that do go sober, they stay sober a long time. And if you do read that, like I have slipped since I've done that. I have slipped, but I've slipped this time, well, the last time I did it now, with the knowledge that if I have a few weeks, I will be back to normal. So I let that crap happen, and it was horrible. I felt like I wanted to kill myself for a few days. But I knew this time that if I could ride that out, I'm back to where I am now, you know, and however many weeks after that. So it's different. I've got a real reason to not slip back into bad habits now. And if you do, don't beat yourself up. Right now, know that your brain will trick you into thinking that you need to kill yourself, but it is literally a chemical trick. It will feel completely real, but it's not. There are better options. Like you have to be aware that your brain, although amazing and powerful, is often wrong.
Often your worst enemy in some ways. Yeah.
100%. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong about loads of stuff. And you might think you know everything, but you don't. That's another thing. The best thing to know is that you know nothing. Other than that, exercise, mental. I would never believe that. I do 1,000 steps-ish a day now, and it's not much, but it's what they recommend us. It's what I do with the dog, and then if I play golf or whatever. Exercise does, especially if you're into drugs. Exercise releases drugs, like natural drugs that are
endorphins. Yeah,
and you feel great after doing it. So I go out for my walks. I find nature does something to me. When I was in the height of my depersonalisation, nature freaked me out. So that's a type of people. That's more of when you are a bit settled. Nature is good. So that's it depends where you are. And the other thing, and this maybe is one of the most important, is you'll find yourself not feeling like you can do loads of stuff, or feeling like you don't want to, or sometimes can't. You have to force yourself to do them. And then a few hours later, you will get the reward from that. And also, you will always find that whatever it is you're putting off doing is not as bad as your brain has created it to be. So I'm not perfect for this. I make plenty of mistakes with this, and days where I should do stuff and I don't. But the days that I do what I should do, a few hours later, I get that natural buzz and that natural calmness of, when it's almost like you've earned your lack of anxiety. It's almost like you've done this. There you are. Yeah, have a few hours off now.
And your brain's rewarding you for it almost.
Your brain is rewarding you. So forcing yourself, if you're chronically depressed, even having a shower or bath will be like a immeasurable task to you. Force yourself to do it before you got a chance to think. And force yourself up into doing stuff. And if you act normal long enough, you trick your own brain into feeling normal, from my experience.
Yeah.
Feel horrible for the first bit, but once you get through that barrier, there really is a tiny little pot of gold on the other side. And as you keep going through it, it becomes more and more accessible, and you end up actually not feeling afraid of stuff. But you have to take those breaks. Like if you don't feel you can have a shower, get up in the morning, go 1, 2, 3, and fucking run.
Like almost jumping off. Yeah.
Get on with it. Do it. Do a cold shower as well.
Yeah.
Also, scare the crap out of yourself with do loads of stuff that you don't think you should do, or not in a bad way, but in like a scary way,
Yeah. Stuff you've worked up in your mind.
Yeah, man. Constantly overcome little boundaries that you're subconscious to set yourself. Stuff like that. And as I say, I'm not perfect, but that's a selection of the stuff that's worked for me. Oh, and if you have depersonalisation, because there might be some people watching.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hot water bottle, I find, helps. Something to do with, I'm guessing it maybe simulates human contact or some sort of soothing thing, but that's something I found can soothe you if you're having a really tough time in bed or something. A hot water bottle has helped me many times. It sounds weird, but that's one that, speaking to other people who have it as well, seems a common ground factor. So it sounds weird, but yeah,
it's all about finding those little things that can help. And if anyone is listening and they've heard that little bit of advice, that might go a long way. So Elro, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast, man.
That's been a pleasure, man.
There were some really, really good, concrete and practical bits of advice you gave there, from someone that has lived all of these things, and you've come a long way, man. And I think that is something to be proud of. It doesn't matter how fucked up things might have been before in anyone's life, really, as long as you can make some positive changes. There is a better life that you can be living. So yeah, man, really appreciate you taking the time to come on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man. And thanks for good questions as well.
No worries, mate. Thanks.
Good platform to express stuff on. So thank you.
One thing I forgot. New music. Should we be expecting any new music soon? You said you're sitting on an album. I couldn't let you go without asking you that.
You should be expecting new music soon. What form it's going to come in, I can't really tell you, other than it'll be single by single for a bit, or single freestyle single. I'm not doing an EP or an album for a bit. That'll be further down the line, but you expect music. Yeah, it's coming. Now that my head's together, finally.
Yeah, can't wait for it, man. Well, yeah, cheers, Elro. Thanks a lot, man. And yeah, take it easy.
Big up, man.
That's it for today's episode, guys. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. And above all, thanks a lot for watching. If you've got a story that you want to share on the podcast, get in touch, give me a shout. I'd love to hear from you via info@backontrackpodcast.com.